A lot of organizations would claim that it's always people first. In the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, I have about more than 2,500 employees in the foundation. So it's quite big, right? And we are located across the country. I have people in Mindanao and even in far-flung Luzon. So, but majority is within the Visayas region. But we have about 2,800 people. And the first thing that we wanted to really make sure during that time is that we took care of our people. And I was part of a conglomerate. I'm talking about the Aboitiz group, not just for Rafi, but for the Aboitiz group, that the first mandate was no one's gonna lose their job.
Welcome and good day. Welcome to season 19, episode 2 of The Leader's Edge. Today, we're honored. We have Michael Godinez with us, who is I would say, maybe exiting or soon to be exiting president of the PMAP. That's for 2024. In addition, Mike is also the SVP and Chief People and Culture Officer of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation. Usually, such a case, I'm sure Mike has a great deal of things to share about himself, so I'll turn it over to Mike right away.
Hi, Paul. Good day. Honored to be here. Yeah, thank you for that brief introduction. Yes, I'm actually ending my term as PMAP president this month, January. So there's a new set of board of trustees and officers, but I will still be very active. I will be sitting in as part of the ex officio as the immediate past president. So I'm still gonna be very active for 2025, and I will also be in charge for all the chapter affairs of PMAP. So as you all know, we have more than 35 chapters across the country. So that will be my task after the presidency. And yeah, correct. I'm actually part of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation. It's actually the family foundation of the Aboitiz Group. But we are based in Cebu. As you all know, the Aboitizes are actually from Cebu. So the family foundation are still rooted very much in Cebu. So I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to share what I can during this discussion.
Well, I'm excited because the topic is selected as touching people and shaping the future. And ever since COVID, people have suddenly become like the center of attention for many organizations because not only was the organization going through a difficult time, but even the people themselves. In fact, my little story about that, I could imagine the typical, because I come from the BPO side call center.
Okay.
They go home to the little 25 square meter in SMDC and they get stuck in that room for, I said, oh my goodness, they'll go crazy. Okay. That's the phrase that crossed my mind. So, touching people and shaping the future is extremely important. And a lot of companies love to say that people are our biggest asset. They love to say that. And some companies get it right, some companies don't. Okay, I'm sure you know this. But in your experience, what are some of the things that the companies that do get it right? What is it that they do right?
Yeah, the concept of touching people shaping their future is actually the mission of our organization, the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation. The family foundation of the Aboitizes was created about 60 years ago. And the mission is to touch people and shape their future. So basically, the organization intended to help the least, last, and lost in society. So the poorest of the poor, those who have been forgotten. So that's been the mission of about this family, to help elevate, the physical, the social, and the economic well-being of the communities, especially the poor. So, but when it comes to the profession, I'm an HR guy. I've been doing HR for quite a while now. But in terms of, like you mentioned, during the time of COVID, no, I honestly think for us HR practitioners, this was the time where we really felt like we were given the spotlight. I remember in my own experience, and I'm talking to colleagues in the HR profession, those were the times. the CEO, president were directly calling all HR managers, heads, asking them about what's going on. It was the first time that everybody, all members of the Mancom, just sat down and listened to what HR was about to say. And I think for most organizations, this was also the time they were given the opportunity to really showcase. A lot of organizations would claim that it's always people first, but there were a few organizations that were really able to live up to that to that principle. In fact, just I remember in our own experience in the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, I have about more than 2,500 employees in the foundation. So it's quite big, right? And we are located across the country. I have people in Mindanao and even in far-flung Luzon. So, but majority is within the Visayas region. But we have about 2,800 people. And the first thing that we wanted to really make sure during that time is that we took care of our people. And I was part of a conglomerate. I'm talking about the Aboitiz group, not just for Rafi, but for the Aboitiz group, that the first mandate was no one's gonna lose their job. That was the mandate across the different businesses. And that gave assurance to everybody in the organization that this is an organization that really took to heart the people first principle. And we saw that everything that we did as an organization, we really focused and intended to take care of our people. It was always people first, business came in second, especially during the most trying times when everybody was confused. But I think one of the things that also made us thrive quite faster than most organization as a group, as a conglomerate, is that we were actually quite a few steps ahead of most organizations when it comes to technology. That's also something that the Aboitiz group has always been promoting, right? A techglomerate. This is probably the first techglomerate in the country. So it was easy for us to shift from the work based, office based work to going home, right? And it was such a challenging time for us. But the first thing that we did as an organization was to send people home. When as early as January, I think that happened March. So early as January, we were already convening all HR groups across the different organizations, talking to CEOs, and asking us on what we were about to do, no, just in case the situation escalated. So in other words, what we're trying to say is that when there was a crisis, everybody all across the different organization of the Aboitiz group stopped operations and thought about how do we take care of our people first. And that kind of approach was felt by everyone in the organization. And that, for me, was really shaping what we have molded into an organization that is as big as ours. No? And it was quite a challenge, but at the end of the day, if the leadership is really focused on making sure that everyone in the group is taken care of, then it can be done. So that for me was the best, especially the moment of COVID, was the best time for us to showcase as to what really is the organization is all about.
I'm glad that you actually had that opportunity. And one thing that's, as in the case of Aboitiz, and I'm sure other large conglomerates, I mean, and this is a little straightforward, but you have the money to support it. You do. Okay, even if you didn't sell anything, I'm sure you have money somewhere that you can support it. But I'm also sure that, especially, I'm sure you're also with PMAP at that time, 2020.
Yep.
I'm sure there were some companies that couldn't support it. They couldn't, you know, if everything shut down, they can't exist another 2 months. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then they were going through a different struggle. If you have any experience with working, speaking to some people from those kinds of companies, can you tell us a little bit more about how they were handling it, how they were going through it?
I think what was important during that time, I mean, regardless of what size the organization was, and I think there was no exemption, and there were also bigger organizations that just made the decision, okay, we close or we stop operations, and It's not, again, it's not about the money. It's, for me, it's about the principle of the leadership, right? But for most organization in PMAP, especially for most members of our organization, the people managers, one of the best I would say trait that happened in their organization is that it was led by HR. And HR, if we are to look at our core competence, it's about communication, the ability to communicate to people. I mean, in reality, people would understand if the business could not sustain because of what was going on, because of the uncertainties. But as long as there's really clear, concise, and very authentic communication, I think people would understand. And you should be given the correct information. They should be informed about what's going on in the organization. Because I know people, when they know that the organization uh, is also having difficulties in making sure that they stay afloat. I mean, people will understand. I mean, there's nothing, but the most important part is that there's a, a transparent, clear, and honest to goodness, authentic communication to our people. Management were able to, those organizations that even closed but were able to let go of their people well. There were clear and planned communication, how you go about making sure that everyone is aware what's going on. You know what really was a big problem for most organizations, that most people were kept in the dark. They were guessing, are we gonna go? Is this still gonna be okay? But if for most organizations that were very direct, transparent, and inform their people that, in fact, I remember talking to one like PAL, for example, they were one of the biggest organizations that was affected by the
Yeah.
pandemic, and I remember their CEO sharing their story during our annual conference. He mentioned that they were not giving salaries to most. There was really no work, no pay. But when there was a time when they were in need of volunteers, right, to 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 retrieve some of our co-Filipinos trapped somewhere else, and Anpal actually volunteered to have that flight, no, from different countries. Their workers without pay volunteered to their pilots and their, like, and their FA. So the thing is, because if people are aware of what's going on, and it was a time of uncertainty when organizations were direct, transparent, people appreciated that, because in a time of chaos and confusion, clear, transparent communication was the only thing that I would probably say very effective for everybody to understand each other. And that was something that was shared across different HR roles, right? In HR, in different organizations, whether they thrived or they closed, communication was the key to keep the peace in the organization and with the employees.
When you mentioned communication, communication is it's one of those basic things,
Mhm.
but it's also one of those things that you can get wrong so easily. Okay.
Yeah, but you understanding, like during the pandemic, we forgot all other things. We went back to basic. Yeah, that's why
Right.
communication was very important, because in a times where everyone was confused, the only way for us to have clarity in whatever form is transparent and clear communication. And for me, that was the most important tool that most organizations held on to, just to get through that, whether it's
Right.
closure, thriving, and all that. So for me, that's it. And we've heard stories of organizations that closed down, but people were okay with that because they knew it was gonna happen, and how it's gonna happen, and why it happened. So yeah.
Well, that's it's. I'm glad that that's the good side of it. There were also challenges, and one organization, uh, the CEO would walk in and say, "Okay, guys, you have your salaries; they're good for the next 3 months." And then 2 weeks later, no, we're changing the salary after the end of the month. And, well, and they were there, huh? What's going on? Okay.
Mm,
So they were really struggling with that. And for some companies, they did it well, communicated well. Now that we're coming out of the COVID situation, there's still certain degrees of instability. The work from home issue started coming up, and also the advent of all of this artificial intelligence. Again, this is an opportunity where communication again is key. And can you tell us a little more about how some companies are working with especially with are they clear about work from home policies, and how are they communicating, especially with about artificial intelligence?
You know, in reality, even before the pandemic, we already had the telecommuting law, which actually encourages organizations to allow employees to work from home. Actually, it started and it originated. The concept came from the NCR, no, right? Because again, issues of traffic, flooding, but there were certain jobs that can be done online. But it was just difficult for most organizations to accept and adjust, right? But during the pandemic, we were left with no choice but to adjust and adapt. So I think for most organizations, like for PMAP, we also have our share of really understanding the work environment, right? From pre-pandemic, then during the pandemic, then post-pandemic. And it was a very I would say insightful years for us as an organization, especially in the context of people management. 2020, 2021, the dark years, right? Those were the days that we didn't really know. It was all full of queues, ECQ, MCQ, whatever queues, right? And we had no queue. So what's gonna happen? But late 2022, 2023, we already started convening again leaders in PMAP and making sure that we are assisting everybody, HR, because the best way to help organizations through their HR. And in 2022, we were talking about all of these things from work from home to IT, but the biggest buzzword during that time was mental health. We were strongly I mean, we were coming out of something that nobody had, I would say, experienced, right? So it was new to everyone. So whether it was an now we're currently, I'm not sure if this is the next normal, the new normal, but what we know is this is the now normal, regardless of how you put it, right? So we also had our journey in terms of making sure we understand what's the work culture now, what's the working environment's gonna be like after the pandemic. So even for in 2023, we were really thinking about how do we now move from this concept of hybrid work, this RTO, return to office, or full work from home. And of course, there's AI, how people are reacting to, and there were jobs. And it also disrupted the whole employment atmosphere. People are now up for gig economy. Even the priorities of people have changed. When you talk to applicants now, the first thing that they ask is, what's your work setup like? Especially the younger ones. And organizations needed to adapt and adjust, right? With the demands, and because values changed because of that experience, the whole pandemic. So again, we will work out. We started with mental health, making sure that this is brought to the table. People are aware, people are more accepting. There's no stigma when people talk about mental health. And I think that has been successfully achieved, right? It's now it's acceptable when people talk about mental health. Then there comes the hybrid work setup, and in reality, whatever floats your boat, and we know that there's no one set formula for everybody, and this is where creativity now we're encouraged, no, amongst HR practitioners. Like for example, there's in my case, just to share, in my organization, I do hybrid, but I call it a ROE, right? The results oriented work environment. We have to shift. I have a 3+1+1 formula. I have 1 day work from home, 3 days return to office, 1 day work from anywhere. So it's like Monday. What I do Monday is I call it Monday my day. So every Monday you can work from home, which means if there are things urgent in the office, you can go to the office if there's really a need for you to be in the office because you're just working from home. So expectedly you can go to the office. Tuesdays to Thursdays, this is the time we go back to the office because we need to collaborate. We need to be with other people. And Friday we call it work from anywhere. You can work from the beach. You can work from anywhere. All you have to do is to be online. So you are reachable online. So that worked for us. For most organizations, I know it's just 4+1. So in other organizations that they are only required. For most BPOs that I know here in Cebu, for example, they're only required, especially the back office, they're required to go to the office once a week. So different teams, maybe Mondays, another team on Wednesdays. So whatever, folks. But people are now very creative and sensitive to the need of the employees. At the same time, balancing it to the nature of the business or of the organization. So people are more creative, and that's one thing we like. There's no one fit formula for everything. And of course, the AI, for example, this was our main theme last year in PMAP. Everybody's going AI. AI is not tomorrow, is not today. It was yesterday's, right? So we were quite and HR as the advocates and champion for culture in organization. We need to champion this, to embrace technology, not be afraid of AI. And in fact, the whole year of PMAP last year, 2024, we talked about AI and jobs because a lot of people think that we will close a lot of jobs because of AI. And we've invited experts from all over the world. And the realization and the conclusion was you will not be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by people who uses AI. So the thing is, AI is something that we also need to acquire. It's a core competence now. So that no, and but again, the message, if you'd see my shirt, that's a message that we have last year. Rehumanize. Because with the advent of work from home, people not really facing each other face to face. The AI, people just working from home, isolation. The call for us in HR now is to rehumanize. Let's not forget about rehumanizing people because at the end of the day, this is the core of most businesses, and people are not just mere assets, they are capital for most organizations.
Let's pick up on this AI, especially about touching people and especially
Yeah,
shaping the future. One of the biggest, and this I heard from a conversation. I think it was a TED talk. There was something on YouTube. Unfortunately, I didn't save it. And the point he made was, as AI develops, will AI become aware, or will we become more like AI? Okay, and when I thought about that, it brought me back quickly to the days when coaching, for example, was put online.
yeah,
Okay. And when that happened, some managers would just do it online, say the coaching is done. They'd send you your coach. And that's not coaching. It wasn't working. Okay.
mhm,
And in that case, he was letting the technology do the work for him. Okay. That's a very small example, but I'm sure you've experienced it and I'm sure you've worked with organizations who have. Now, along comes AI, which can do much more. And that might be the challenge also. They're letting AI do things that humans should be doing simply because, well, it's easier and I have too much work to do, whatever it is. Uh, Given that, what are your thoughts about how to deal with this? Because for me, it's not about learning AI, it's more about learning when to use it or not,
agree.
especially the higher up you go.
Yep.
Okay, said, am I going to use AI or not? What are your thoughts about that?
Yep. I think embracing technology, AI, Gen AI, for example, even for me, I would like to claim that I have quite adapted earlier part when it was not as popular. That was something that really personally sparked an interest. But it's always a journey. It still is a journey. There are things that you learn every day. And for us, like for example, in our profession, HR leaders, for example, there are times wherein there are organizations would block AI for people to use, like even chat GPT, things like that. Why are we afraid of doing that? Like even in school, I was talking to my son, and then most of the teachers that have adapted the new school environment now is that they don't really give much paperwork because they know their students will just use chat GPT to do the research for them. I miss the days that we have to go to the library, read everything before we can do the report. Then now it's easy as that, right? But what's important is for like most teachers now would go for like real group work, reporting. Because I don't know if even if you research it through AI, but you have to study when you're not just submitting it for paperwork, you still learn because you read if you want to report it. And even in the office, I don't mind like if I ask my staff, can you do a policy about, for example, well-being? If the staff would use AI, I'm good with that. But there's a training in the context of it could probably do 60 to 70% of your work, But I would still suggest that you do the 30-40%, which is customizing it to what we really need. So in other words, it can save us time. It will speed up our work, but it will not completely do the 100% of what we expect to do. So and our people, instead of just relying, we teach them on how to do the use to how to use the proper prompt. Because at the end of the day, if you just know how to do the prompting, you get better results. It probably so from 40, you just need to put in about 20%. So the thing is, you need to balance it out. In terms of doing policy, yeah, you can do AI, but in terms of coaching, for example, there are certain levels or certain coaching approaches that can be done online. I'm good with that. That is still like, you don't have to to be with me physically, but as long as we talk, like for example, this case, sometimes it works for certain people, but there are certain people I don't think they appreciate online. And for us in HR, there are certain HR functions that we can AI can help. Even technology, not just AI, but technology can help. Like for example, we can do initial instead of asking the employee to come or the applicant to come to the office, they need to take care of their travel expense and all that. Why don't you just do the initial interview through Zoom, right? And once they go for final interview, that's the probably the time that you invite them to go to the office, saving costs for both the employee, the applicant, and the organization. So things like that, we accept and we embrace that as part of. But when we do, like for example, performance evaluation, we still require them talk to your employee. That's part of coaching, part of mentor learning sessions. There are training that can be done online, and there are training that has to be face to face. So it's really a mix of how you think would work for certain group of people, industry, and levels in the organization. Because probably there are the younger ones or the rank and file employees, for example, need to be assisted really face to face. But for your higher management, I know that if you can just do meetings online. But for your team, Huddle is still very, but so I would say really a mix. And this is where the challenge for leaders are really focused and how you continuously uh change the mix, no, the menu, and look for a formula that works best for you. So the thing is, it makes the work exciting. It's not necessarily easier, but I would say exciting.
Definitely. When I saw AI for the first time, I said, "Wow, okay, this can do so much," and then it just seems to be getting better all the
I
time.
do some of my emails through AI. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit that. But again, the point is, I know my brand. So I have to correct, I have to change, modify, not really just copy paste and put everything there, right? So but it saves me probably at least 50% of the time, no, that compose it. So yeah,
When you mention the word brand, and this is something very important, especially when it comes to touching people and shaping the future.
yeah.
I'm sure you know Simon Sinek's The Three Circles of for Why and all
Why?
of that.
Correct. Yeah.
When I looked at it and spent some time, then again I heard this thing again on LinkedIn. Again, I forgot where the source was, but I think that's a big mistake. The person should focus on who they are first. That should be anchored, not your why. And to get biblical about it, if you look at the story of David, at the beginning, when he was just a shepherd, he discovered who he was. But then he forgot who he was when he became king. And that's when the mess started happening because his who it got obscured by all the stuff that you do when you're a king, okay, if you want to say. And sometimes we get a little too carried away with our why that we actually forget who we are. And I'm sure you've also met executives who, you know, big retirement, here's your golden handshake, give a big speech, and they go, Paul, if you could do it again, what would you do differently? I'd spend more time with my family. I said, my goodness, you forgot who you were. Okay. I said, so you can even see it happening. And that's something that I feel should be driven more. Get straight on who you are, stick to it, because that causes problems later on. You've seen organizations fall into this whole trap. I'm sure you know the case of Boeing. Okay, somewhere along the line, they forgot who they were. Okay. And look, I don't know where they are now, but they certainly are having a difficult time. So when it comes to touching people, shaping the future, I'd really like to focus on getting the people. Now, for a young person, it's difficult. I'll agree. Okay, but for a young person trying to figure this out, if you agree with what I'm saying, now what are some thoughts you can give to even older people on getting who you are straight in the first place?
Well, I think even for myself, I am not actually the same person I was 5 years ago. And for me, the me that I think that exists also is on a journey. I was a different person when I was in college. I was a different person when I started my career. I'm a different person now. And for me that's who I am. I keep on evolving. And that's something that I have accepted and something that I have come at come into terms with. And and for me, identity, I mean we go back to our core, right? We have our core, but life is beautiful when you feel like you're in a journey. And for most of us, that journey could be confusing at times, stable at times, and I respect that. And good for those people who are very solid and very stable when it comes to identifying their brand, who they are. And for me, I honestly think, especially, but I appreciate the younger generation. This is something I really, I mean, we can talk about your issues with the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, right? And I remember I'm in a mix. I mean, between millennial and Gen X, right? I'm in that part. And I have a feeling when the older people were you millennials, you have this issue, you have like this and that, and now the issue is with the Gen Z and I just realized that everybody is really going through the same thing, but not in the same environment, right? People will still go for the sense of belongingness, affirmation, actualization, but we belong in different environment. We belong to different times, right? For example, I remember when I was growing up, the challenge, for example, when studying is how to find the best source of materials for you to learn more. That's why you go to more expensive schools because they provide better facilities. They have bigger. I remember I went to UST, and the only thing that really attracted me to UST is that when I visited the school, I saw one whole building as a library. And go, my God, this is the only school with one whole building dedicated to a library. So for me, I know that I'll learn a lot from this school, but now it's not the same because if you want to learn more, just have an internet access to your phone, or then you can learn. And you know, there's TikTok and there's YouTube, and well, there are pros and cons, right? But for the access to knowledge is easy. So even the access to life, we get to learn about the experience of other people, right? Not I mean, it's given, and we like, and we criticize and we discriminate the marites, but there's marites to all of us. That's why we're always in our social media accounts. So the thing is, the life is understanding yourself still is a journey, and one thing that I just hold close to me, and then I share this with when I'm invited for a talk, even to students or even to professionals, is that just look at your inner your core. If the things that you do makes you happy, for me, that's the most important thing. Whether it's religion that grounds you, faith. I mean, we are happy to talk to people with strong faith because I think they're one of the more stable, like mentally, spiritually, and all that. But there's some people who are grounded to their family, and I like that dedication. There are people grounded to doing good works, right? Or just even I don't care if they are just grounded to their love life, but if that makes them happy, if that makes their existence worthwhile, I'm kind of, I mean, this is like, I'm a clinical psychologist also, Paul. That's why my training in clinical psychology helped me develop this kind of a liberal thinking, ability to accept people for whatever floats your boat. I don't really care. Just For me, I live by the golden rule: do unto others what you want others to do unto you, not do unto others. So things like that. And I think what is important is understanding your core. Go towards where you are happy. Don't step on. I still believe that. Don't step on other people's shoes. Respect that. But do as you please, as long as you don't hurt others. If it makes you happy, go for it. And then regardless of how you look, your hairstyle, whatever, go for it. So that for me is my brand. I don't really subscribe to a certain model and that and so far that works for me. I hope that that also works for some people who would probably think of doing the same thing.
Well, actually, Abraham Lincoln put it very clearly. He goes, "If I do good, I feel good. If I do bad, I feel bad." That's my religion. it was,
Agree, agree,
it was,
agree.
it was really, really very clear. And for me, actually, I'm a little. I mean, I'm a naturally positive guy, so I know in the end it'll be good. But we'll have a period when, especially when we shift into AI, because AI, for example, you said, I'd have to go to the library, find my information. And when you think about that kind of education, when you give your thesis and you look back at your thesis 20 years later, you say, this is a piece of junk. Okay. But that wasn't the point. The ones who were evaluating your thesis were evaluating if you had the discipline to go to the library and find the information.
Correct.
That's what they were chasing.
The value of hard
Okay.
work.
Right. And that kind of gets lost now with AI, and AI internet for me it makes it even worse because now your problem is being able to identify fact from fiction with so
Well,
much coming in
I
and
agree,
you're
but
lazy.
but what's the world
Okay.
that we live in? That's a problem. We cannot go back. That's the issue, right?
Right.
Um, I mean, I have a 22-year-old son. I want him to learn the value of hard work. But how can I do that when everything is just so instant? Information, everything else. I mean, and if I stick to what I believe that he should go through, we would just like do a lot of conflicts, right?
How I
I want to share
forever.
this with I want to share this and I share this with a lot of people every time I get the opportunity to talk. I was just surprised during the pandemic. It was just me. I'm a single father, and it's just me and my son, and we live in a place in a condo that it's just like and I have a stay out Yaya, but during the pandemic it was difficult for her to come to the house regularly. So it was just me and my son, and this was the time. And I just one thing I realized as a parent, quality time is just an excuse. Quantity time is more important because you just don't know it. Then your kids are already grown up, right? And I remember I was talking to them, and the pandemic we had no choice. We had to live together for 24/7. This is me and him, right? He cannot go out, I cannot go out, and all that. There's no work and all that. So it's just me and him. So well, after dinner or after a meal, I'll tell him, "Can you please wash the dishes?" He would just say, "Wait." Right? Can you and it will take a while. But one time I just he was in front of me and I just used Messenger, Facebook Messenger. Can you stand up and wash the dishes? He suddenly stood up and washed the dishes. And I've been doing that ever since. So every time I want him to do something, I would just chat. Even if he's in front of me, I would just inform him through F Messenger, and he would do the such thing. And I just realized this is the best way to communicate with him. So I'm adapting that. Although I still go for our face to face, but there's another way to communicate with him, and that is the most important part. There is I get to him, right? So things like that. So I mean, we also have to understand that it's a different world now, and but there are values that should remain, like family, respect, trust, and all that. But maybe not how we showed hard work before, but there could be another forms of hard work that they have to do now. But that we have to find out.
Yes, it's all still quite a mystery, if you want to say. Mike, the time went by very, very quickly. I certainly enjoyed conversing with you. We covered a lot of things about touching people, shaping the future, a little bit about what you do. And, the future is really going to be difficult, but I just have the strong feeling that we'll go through a period of really, really difficult time trying to figure it out because it's easy to get lost with everything around. It really is very, very easy. And some people, unfortunately, they will take advantage of it. They know this. They'll one of the tricks you've seen in my days, if you wanted to censor, let's say, a newspaper or radio station, you go into the shop, shut the newspaper down, take over the radio station. Today, what do? They just flood the internet with so much information. You don't know what the truth is anymore. Okay. In fact, the truth sinks to the bottom in those cases, so it becomes even more difficult to figure it out. But I had a wonderful time talking to you. And before we wrap up, Mike, is there anything maybe you want to share with our participants? Any events from PMAP or the Aboitiz Foundation that you'd like to invite them to?
Yeah, yeah. Just for PMAP, especially for leaders in the organization. PMAP has evolved also as an organization. It's no longer just uh, HR practitioners. The organization is called People Managers Association of the People Man. It's still being led by the HR leadership, but we have so many members who are not HR practitioners, people from operations, sales, marketing, because at the end of the day, the business is all about people management. So we invite people to understand how to manage people better. There's a lot of training and uh, talks about leadership that you can use wherever you are, right? And of course, there are issues about mental health that you can also bring to your own personal lives, including about how to take care of your family's mental health, all that. So many things. And again, for us in the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, it's really just about the message about really spreading kindness, no, right? Especially for the last couple of years, and we've seen how this country has evolved also from, as you mentioned, I'm a bit touchy uh, on the topic about misinformation, about all of this, shaping now the minds of our young ones. I'd still like to encourage everybody to please go back to rehumanize. Even as a parent, you go back to your kids, talk to your kids about what's real and what's not, no, out there, what's correct and wrong information. And we've seen how the result of the late last election was really the worst, and the clear manifestation of how wrong information would lead us to where, right? So I hope it can be addressed and go back to our core as humans, as family, as HR, as managers in our organization. We still have that circle of influence to make sure that data, that information are correct and real. So again, thank you for this opportunity. I hope we'd be able to talk more about leadership, how we influence people positively, and at the end of it all, let's just do our share and make this country a better place. No, this is our way to contribute to nation building. I'm for that.
I really like the rehumanize logo, if you want to say, or motto, if you want to say. Thank you for that. And it's funny because I'm sure you watched the movie Wall-E.
Yep.
And you know what I found really funny about that movie? The robots were more human than the humans. I
Yeah.
said, "What's
Correct.
this?" That's what I found really funny. But Michael, was it Mike? They're calling Mike or Michael?
Mike,
Mike?
Mike, I'm good. I'm good with
Mike,
Mike.
okay. It was wonderful talking to you. There was a lot of insights into what we had. And for our viewers, our next episode, episode 3, is with Eric Riego de Jos, and he'll be talking about
Yeah,
Journey
Eric
to
is a
the.
good friend.
Ah, yes, yes. And he'll be talking about Journey to the Bottom of the Earth. And viewers, if you like this, please hit that subscribe, follow button because those help us a great deal. Bring out, spread the good news, if you want to say. And as it always is, here with Leader's Edge, learning, never ending journey, limitless vistas.